Hey, what's up everyone? PersNikity here. Welcome back to the walkthrough for Rime, and we are moving on to what I call Part 5, namely because it is the 5th video in the walkthrough, as if you couldn't guess that on your own. So anyway, from the title of this video, you'll notice that it's called something along the lines of the Bird Boss Part 2 of 3. So you already witnessed the first part of the fight, and like I said in that video, the boss fight against this desert bird vulture thing, it's a three-parter. In order to damage the vulture, you need to hit it with a strike of lightning from these dark black clouds, and unfortunately it takes 3 hits to kill the vulture, and every one of these videos is going to be covering a hit, because you can see the length of this video is somewhere around 10 or 11 minutes long. So that's how it's going to work out. Anyway, you're going to finally emerge out of this tunnel system out back into the desert, and you're actually going to sneak a right here, and you're going to want to hug this wall and then climb up. Remember, the vulture will attack you if you are in the sunlight for too long. You have to make sure that you are in some sort of enclosed, shaded region to avoid his attack. You'll notice in that window there's a collectible inside. I did not go for it, namely because I'm not going after the collectibles in this walkthrough, but do know that if you happen to be looking for them, there's one right there, pretty easy to spot. Now, in terms of the total boss fight, so all 3 parts, in terms of the total fight, this is actually, in my opinion, the easiest part. And not that the boss is difficult at all. This game is not that hard. The boss is not that challenging. But just speaking relatively, this is probably the easiest part of the 3. And that's mainly because there's hardly any areas where the vulture can actually attack you. As long as you stick to the linear path, a lot of this is done by climbing. And the vulture, for some reason, cannot attack you while climbing. You'll see there's certain areas where I'll be climbing in full sunlight, and yet he cannot do anything to stop that. And then as far as puzzles go, there are going to be a few more puzzles in this part than I think were in the first part, but, again, that's what I'm here to help walk you through. But again, you'll notice, like right here, I'm in full sunlight, and you can see right now the bird is peeking over the ledge, and he's doing nothing. So you can kind of see already that this is substantially easier than the first part, and then the third part's easy as well. In fact, it's probably the first part that's the hardest. The only thing that might make the third part hard is that it involves swimming. So it involves being underwater, and pretty much any game ever has yet to nail underwater mechanics. Or I guess that's not necessarily true. I know that in Uncharted 4 there's a level where you are wearing like scuba gear and you're swimming underwater, and that went pretty smoothly, but I'm sure we all can reminisce about the annoying water levels in past video games. I know for myself, going off on a side point here, my first exposure to water levels was in Donkey Kong Country, which was a game that I had on the Super Nintendo long ago. Still have it, actually. Still have it, the system and everything. I could play it if I wanted to. But the point is that game had a lot of underwater levels, and I used to just hate them. Being a young kid already, that game was tough enough. That was a pretty tough platformer game. And so whenever I had to do those underwater levels, that just was not fun. And then another game that I had for the Super Nintendo was Super Mario World. And I'm sure pretty much everyone can remember an underwater level in Mario, and the squids that would slant at an angle, and the fish, it was a nightmare. It was not fun, and it's something I would never want to go back to or wish upon my worst enemy. Alright, so anyway, enough of that nonsense. You're going to come to this room here, and you might want to spend some time with this puzzle, see if you could work it out by yourself, but I'm going to just show you the no-nonsense quick way to get it done. So remember, you'll see these emblems once in a while that have a sun if they're exposed to the sun, and if they are exposed to shade, they will show a moon, and depending on what signal it's showing, that will trigger something. So you see how I just rotated that giant lever in the middle, and it raised this platform because the sun emblems on the left side of the room were covered, and so they turned into moon emblems. But you're going to make your way along this upper edge, and when you get to here, you're going to want to stop because the vulture will appear in this hole in the wall, and if you walk in front of him, he's going to yell and blow you off of the wall, in which case you're not going to die or anything, but you are going to have to re-climb, and why waste time that you don't need to waste? So instead, drop down and hang from this ledge and just shimmy over until you are far enough away from the hole that you don't have to worry about him, and then you're going to run over here, and there's a little totem that you can yell at in order to expand this little bridge here, and then you'll see the way that we solve this puzzle. It's actually pretty unique, I think. You're going to jump onto this, and it's going to become tilted, and you can see that when it becomes tilted, one of the moon emblems is now uncovered, and it turned into a sun emblem, and that is what allowed this middle platform to lower. And so now you can successfully hop the gap and move on your merry way. So I'd say, I talked about this in earlier videos, the puzzles in this game are really not that difficult. I think there are maybe a couple that took me 2 minutes to figure out, but there have not been any, strenuous puzzles or anything like that. Like that one in particular, I think took me about 1.5 minutes until I realized that I could crawl up onto that ledge. But anyway, you're going to make your way to this this sheltered region here, and you don't really have to worry about the bird attacking you in here. The only thing that can happen is that the bird can appear in holes in the wall and, knock you down again. Now you're going to see over here, there's a wooden platform you can jump to. Feel free to jump to it if you want, but that wood will collapse. Instead, you're going to want to go this way here, and this is actually the final room of the boss fight, because this is the room where you unlock the dark Thunderclouds, and so you can already see just how much easier this was than part 1. There was hardly any dodging the bird at all. It was all pretty straightforward, easy to do, and it still is going to be easy to do. Now you'll see right there, like I mentioned, the bird will occasionally jump into the hole in the wall in this room, and he can knock you over if you're not careful, so just do be aware of that. And he's actually going to get one on you right now. So you see that as you crawl across this board, it breaks, and here comes the vulture. Just stand still, and he'll actually blow you directly backwards. So you'll see here, if you just walk in a straight line, he'll blow you right to where you need to go. If you stray from that path, he might blow you off the edge, so just be careful. But instead, he'll blow you right over to this block here, and you can simply pull it, and that will unlock the first of 2 Thunderclouds. And keep in mind, like I said, even if he does happen to blow you off the ledge, it's really not a problem. All you have to do is climb back up. There's not a whole lot of risk here. And in terms of death, if the monster does grab you, you will die, but the checkpoints are pretty good. You will spawn almost exactly where you died. So the checkpoints in this game are pretty friendly. But anyway, you're just going to keep climbing. Once again, the paths are always pretty linear in this game, and that's actually, in my opinion, turning into a bad thing. Don't get me wrong, I love linear games. They're my favorite type of game. But this game started off as kind of a fun little relaxing open world game on the island, and now it's the gameplay just feels repeated a bit. So not particularly this boss fight, but on my initial playthrough, I'm a bit farther past this, and I can tell you that the gameplay is starting to get a little stale. I'm not having as much fun playing the game as I was at the beginning. And again, part of that comes from the fact that there's no real narrative going on right now. You're just running around trying to piece together some mystery, and I talked about this in other videos, but for me personally, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine with games nowadays where they don't tell you the story. They just give you these little hints and clues, and they want you to piece together the story for yourself. And that's all fine. I get that. It's cool. But the problem I have with it is that when you do that, every gamer is going to have a different experience. And I know that sounds like a good thing, but in terms of story, one of the things that makes modern video games so monumental is that they've almost become like Hollywood productions. Like the story, the plot writing that goes into modern day video games is amazing. It's not what it used to be. It's not just, put a princess in a castle and try to rescue her. Now there's actually, there's movie writers that make video games. It's a big deal. And so when you make a game like this that does not have that, it doesn't have, one exact story, for me anyway, it feels like I've just been gypped out of something. And I know not everyone agrees with that. That's perfectly cool. That's just kind of my preference as a gamer. I always prefer to be delivered a nice story. I don't like to have to overanalyze things and try to piece together the story for myself like I feel like I have to do in this game. But anyway, those are just my thoughts. You know, obviously, I always encourage you guys to leave comments in the comment section and let me know, what do you think of the game so far? Are you enjoying it up to this point? Are you enjoying my walkthrough, my commentary? Is there anything you'd like to see more of or less of? I know a lot of people right now are leaving comments telling me about a Little Nightmares DLC. A lot of people liked my Little Nightmares walkthrough, and apparently there's going to be a DLC where you play as a little boy instead of the little girl named Six. Usually I don't cover DLC on my channel, but I really did enjoy that game. And it did get a very positive response on my channel, so I may just check out that DLC and we'll see. You know, it's always a learning curve with YouTube. You try new things, you see if people like them. If they don't, maybe you don't do it anymore, maybe you do just out of fun. Kind of the fun thing about having a YouTube channel is there's a lot of room for experimentation. But anyway, we're making our way to the end of this video, and real quick, you're going to be introduced to this little mechanic here. I guess you've done this before, but you're going to be swimming down and then going under some sort of, you know, rocky structure and then emerging back in a hole. This is something we're going to see a lot of in the next video. But anyway, if you just run over here, you'll see the little saving game indicator flash in the corner of the screen, and that's it. So thanks for watching, everyone. Like and subscribe if you get the chance, and I will see you in the next video where we finally get to take down this bird monster once and for all.